Approximately 2 years ago, a Buddhist woman went to her local police station and filed a report against 2 of her Muslim co-workers for rape. A local monk shared the story on Facebook, and what followed was outrage and violence that escalated for days. For 2 whole days, the city of Mandalay was gripped by cultural violence between the Buddhists and the Muslims. The result was that 2 people lost their lives and 19 were severely injured. In fact, calm could only be restored once Facebook had taken the initiative to delete the stories completely. Investigations later revealed that the woman's claim was untrue. She had later admitted to being paid to file the police report. The repercussions? A tainted reputation for the woman herself, a tainted reputation for the alleged rapist, jail for the 5 from whose media outlets the story originated, and tons of bad memories and experiences for innocent people who had been beaten and tortured and who had nothing to do with the incident. In a similar incident in Rainpada, India, 5 innocent men lost their lives for offering a little girl a biscuit. A few days before the incident, a story that originated on mainstream media spread like wildfire on WhatsApp. The story covered information about a kidnapping ring in the area that was allegedly murdering children for their body parts. The information was sent on WhatsApp with pictures of dead children who were allegedly the recent victims of the kidnapping. The 5 innocent men who were from out of town and who were spotted sharing their food were attacked and forcefully taken to the local village office for further questioning. Rumors that the men were indeed guilty spread like a game of Chinese whispers on steroids. Angry mobs stormed the office and took the law into their own hands. The police covering the case described how some men stomped on one of the victims despite his cries for help. He also recounted how 2 other men lifted their chairs high above their heads and brought them crashing down repeatedly, striking an already injured man. One chair, he said, broke apart from the sheer force of the blows. In short, he said, the men were brutally murdered. Fast forward to post the incident, and we learn that disturbingly, the pictures were from a 2013 chemical attack in Syria, where thousands of children lost their lives. Continents and years apart, the incident nor the pictures had any relevance to the article that was written and circulated. Innocent lives were lost in vain on that day. Respected panel members, fellow truth writers, and you, our esteemed audience. A snake with a tongue kills a single person at a time. Authors with forked pens may just be responsible for annihilating humanity itself. Whereas we used to be able to blindly trust the literature we read, we now have to filter everything that reaches us for fear that the authors may be influenced by their prejudice, perhaps profitably paid to change the narrative, or are under pressure from their workplace to sensationalize their stories. You may or may not think that my introduction is rather dramatic, but do remember that the incidents I have spoken about are just 2 in thousands that are affecting different cultures daily. The repercussions of fake news have pervaded innocent lives globally, creating havoc and destruction, uprooting communities forcefully and unjustly. punishing them for things that they have nothing to do with. Of those of you who have heard me speak over the last couple of weeks, you will know that I am bent on promoting the eradication of cultural bias and discrimination at a grassroots level. I believe that what we educate our children about at home sets the stage for who they become as adults. In short, if we teach our children to discriminate and to hate, then those are the values with which they will always function. You see, it's as simple as this. Adults who have been taught, when they were children, that truth and humanity trump over injustice and falsehood, tend to approach their lives and careers with some consciousness at least. I am not going to sit here and tell you that such children will never be able to be corrupted by money in exchange for false reports, will never crack under the pressure to sensationalize to keep their jobs, or will never develop their own sense of discrimination and hate later on in their lives. But I am going to tell you that we stand a better chance of having conscientious leaders, religious figures, journalists, teachers, and authors, and other powerful service men and women if we collectively convey a message throughout their growing years. That's not to say that our children won't ask about the differences they perceive, but whether they do or don't, we ought to teach them the differences from a positive perspective rather than negative and hateful ones. We ought to teach them that no matter how different people look and are, that we are all created by the same God so that we may get to know one another and learn from one another. We ought to tell them that we may look different, but that we all have the same color of blood and that every one of us shares the same feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes, and that we must be respectful and honor them. Going back to the topic at hand, there are a few groups of people I want to talk to specifically on this platform. But before I begin, let me start with the fervent prayer that you will see and hear my message from where it comes, from my heart with good intentions. Dear parents, it is with us with whom our children get their first education. Therefore, it is up to us to educate and lead by example. Allow your children, therefore, to interact with children who are different. It will give them a sense of security that it is okay to interact with people who are different. Let them read from storybooks where children are not the same as them. Let them know the different colors of the universe at the outset. Include all children in play dates, birthday parties, and sleepovers so that other parents may be encouraged to do the same. To create the communities we desire, it takes having to show what community is. Telling sometimes doesn't achieve it. Showing almost always usually does. Let us teach our children that good and bad people exist within all race groups and that we should judge people based on their actions only and not on their backgrounds. My dearest hardworking teachers, you already know the importance of being fair in the classroom. I don't have to tell you this because your love and compassion are innate. Help us then to spread the message of unity by including activities that help our children understand why we need to be united. Open up those creative and essay writing classes to topics that include what it means to be humane and guide our children in embracing the differences. You will be surprised at how ingenious and adaptive children can be when they are given and trusted with sensitive issues. Allow them to write and produce sketches on the topic. Allow them to write interview questionnaires to get to know one another. Have them write about what they want to be when they grow up, so that when they become doctors and lawyers, and definitely journalists and authors, that they will know how they would like to implement humanity. Have them explore fake news and why that isn't good. Help them to explore the repercussions by themselves and get them introspecting about injustice and discrimination. Imagine the impact that would have when our children go off to universities and colleges armed with the prior knowledge and awareness of what fake news is. Dear colleges and universities, formalize, if you can, this area of learning so that future journalists have a better understanding of their roles and responsibilities. Let me highlight that the United Nations itself has already launched a 7-module course that it is designed to deal with this mammoth challenge. Our young, enthusiastic, creative, and aspiring journalists can surely benefit and enter the world of journalism with more clarity of what their purpose is and why the truth that they pledge to tell will help save our entire universe. I must move my appeal now over to the religious scholars from all over. Could we please stop teaching hate? Could we please stop implying directly or indirectly that God, His books and messages advocate destruction and command us to mass murder? Could we please stop lying to our children that we have been told to go to war, kill the elderly, children and women, plunder crops and destroy places of worship? May we please rather teach our children about the differences between religions to unite rather than divide? Can we stop exploiting poverty and circumstances to advance our own hateful agendas and start propagating peace and love? Can we become beacons of hope and truth, open our doors to all people, and reach out to all communities in acts of harmony and love? I feel compelled to talk to authors now, especially non-fiction authors. Publishing houses globally are now demanding that we write material that is factually accurate, primarily because our work is influential to millions who look to us for help, advice, direction, and stimulation. Whereas our colleagues in the journalist area produce short pieces of work, we are responsible for producing books that range anywhere from between 30,000 to 160,000 words at a time. Our books and their purpose are often based on hypotheses that we form from our primary research. Often that research emanates from articles that are written by you, the journalist. We rely on journalists because so much of what they write comes from real-time observations that we would like to believe are accurate. Can you imagine then the proportion of how much can go wrong with our books if we base our hypotheses on fake news? I appeal to my colleagues in publishing also, therefore, to be more mindful of who they look to for their research and to sift the information they read so that it is reliable. We cannot call ourselves change makers through our research and through our books if we neglect to be responsible. Perhaps we too become more knowledgeable about identifying false information so that we can present books that achieve their true purpose, which are then completely in line with our true purpose for writing them. I am certain by now that you are asking yourselves why my focus appears to be limited to a few role players that I have appealed to thus far. You are also wondering why I am not appealing to those in the world of fake news itself. After all, it is their crafty business that has all of us dealing with a pandemic of a different nature, one that continues to create havoc and leaves mass destruction in its wake. I hear you, and I feel your concerns, but even you have to concede that delivering a simple appeal to journalists and authors isn't enough to halt what is happening globally. Social media sites and other news sites have been taking the action they need to try to curb the incidences of fake news doing their cyclonic rounds. Nevertheless, whether you are an established writer or one in the throes of establishing your career, allow me to appeal to you on two basic levels. 1. I understand that post-news verification nullifies the fake reports and eventually sets the record straight. But stop for a minute to chew on this, please. Fake news reports never truly disappear from the internet now, do they? Magazines and newspapers cannot be unprinted and unpublished now, can they? The doubt that you create about innocent people cannot really be undone now, can they? Your actions are therefore eternally destructive, and you will forever carry the collective burden of injustice and indignity that you have created to your graves. Do you really want that? Is it really worth all that money you are being paid? Are you ever afraid that every action has a reaction and that someday your actions will come calling at your door begging for justice? I appeal to you on the second level to tap into your conscience and understand that your actions can destroy all of humanity. Whether you are motivated by hatred, greed, or relentless employers, you have blood on your hands, pure and simple. If you are neither a journalist nor an author by profession, allow me to inform you that you are still a part of the publishing world every time you choose to press the share button on WhatsApp. Every time you press the post button on Facebook, the same happens. To all of you out there, I appeal to you and I offer you something very simple from my perspective, the Nasreeniology perspective. I put it to you that the truth can be found, implemented, and lived in the word truth itself. Allow me to unpack that for you. Let the T in the word truth propel you into talking to different groups of people from whom you shall find enlightenment and through whom you will be able to tell the truth. Be objective and ensure that you tell all sides of the story. Let the T in truth also motivate you to travel as far as possible to the source of the story, to see what is happening firsthand and report exactly that only. Move on to the R in the word truth, and you will know that research is the key to all your actions. Without that, you are inaccurate and are dangerously close to causing stupendous amounts of confusion, hurt, hatred, and murder. It should therefore be followed by reflection and review, which you should then bother to determine is reliable. Make sure to leave out the radical and the rabid points of view and produce work that allows you to rest well at night. Advance to the you in truth, and here are 2 clues for you. Be uninhibited in relaying the facts as they are as far as possible, and write to promote unity between all people. Let's get back to the T in truth and caution ourselves against twisting the truth. Think critically before moving to the H in truth, and when you get there, then be honest, humble, and humane. Don't be hasty in reaching conclusions, and when you do, then offer hope. Refrain from harmful words. Refrain from producing hysteria. Refrain from articles that are humiliating and hypocritical. Delete hate speech altogether, and delete hostility from yourself and your work altogether. Now I know that it's not as simple as all that, but it's certainly an attempt that every one of us can make. Should you happen to think that what I'm suggesting is too simplistic and is far from a workable solution to the false news challenge, then let me tell you that my research suggests that aside from finding ways to curb it, minimize it, and manage it, all attempts at eradicating it have so far proven futile. This is not from a lack of any effort on the part of social media owners and media houses to sort out the problem, but rather because we are at that juncture in which the repercussions of fake news on cultural and religious hate have almost returned man to the point of animalism, in which not even the tiniest bit of humanity appears to be left. Sometimes that requires appealing to and reminding people to go back to the basics, like reviewing their value systems and digging deep into their conscience. Maybe somewhere in all of our work, in all of our goals, we have focused far too much on giving our children a formal education, on motivating them to strive for material success, to climb the ladders in the corporate world at any cost, and to do what it takes to attain a high status in society, that we minimized, even forgot to draw the lines that should never be crossed. In short, we are at a point that now we have to try to teach, unteach, and reteach if it is necessary. It is not unexaggerated that if we continue to write with forked pens, despite knowing the importance of filtering our stories, social media posts, and messages we share, that we will be responsible for the havoc that we created yesterday, will create today, and will cause tomorrow, to the point that even we may be annihilated through it. I'd like to close my message with an original poem that I have written on the subject, in the hope that someday soon This message will influence everyone to take a stance for unity, hope, peace, harmony, and love in our universe. The poem is called The Forked Pen, and I implore you to listen carefully to take my message on board. The Forked Pen. I read up about some leadership laws and learn about multiplying leaders. My thoughts veer to current concerns about authors and millions of readers. It occurs to me that someone knows the impact of the speed of media. Someone's figured out that altered facts can always be verified post the drama. I look at the world's events, some caused by false news itself. It dawns on me that manipulation seems to reign above all else. And no, it is not only the journalist spinning rabid and harmful material. Indirectly, it is all of us who may research from material that is disagreeable. I am disturbed when I realize not much can be done unless writers cultivate a responsible stance and put people before success. If we are to save the world from these troubles, then understand that words are never erased. Though the facts can be corrected later, we've already planted doubt and hate. It is up to all of us with the pen to reflect on what objectivity means, to leave aside our personal prejudices and tell it like it really is. It is up to every one of us to defeat the false news that leads, to quit the path that goes straight to mayhem and build bridges that may just heal. You know that the power of the pen is mightier than the sword. We will strive to write with a single pen rather than one that is forked. Let me be direct about what that forked pen is, lest there be any doubt about my message. It's knowingly sharing destructive false words without a care for the impending carnage. I call upon every writer to conduct a search within, to go back to what is good and righteous and return to what is humane. I thank you for giving me this platform to share and spread my message of peace, unity, and hope. Keep smiling, shining, and rising.